Real quick, before we get into the show, I wanted to share a new service called Getita that Ken and I have been using that has made us over $10,000 in Amazon reimbursements. The service requires no monthly subscription, and Getita collects a small percentage of the money they recover for you. It takes less than 5 minutes to set up and works on all Amazon marketplaces. Go to Getita.com, Getida, and enter promo code FTM400. That's FTM for Firing the Man 400 to get your first $400 in reimbursements commission free. How much money does Amazon owe you?
Welcome everyone to the Firing the Man podcast, a show for anyone who wants to be their own boss. If you sit in a cubicle every day and know you are capable of more, then join us. This show will help you build a business and grow your passive income streams in just a few short hours per day. And now your hosts, serial entrepreneurs David Schomer and Ken Wilson.
Welcome everyone to another exciting episode of the Firing the Man podcast. Today we have a very special guest joining us, someone who's mastered the art of creativity in multiple forms. From marketing and freelancing to launching his own agency and now venturing into the world of filmmaking. We are thrilled to have Trevor Lubiens with us today. Trevor's journey is a testament to the power of following your creative passions, whether it's building brands, working with clients across different sectors, or tackling his latest ambitious projects, filming his first documentary. He's here to share the why behind his drive to create what he's learned from working in agencies, freelancing, and starting his own company, and give us a sneak peek into the documentary filmmaking process. If you're a creative entrepreneur or just someone looking to find your why in whatever you do, this episode is packed with insights. So sit back, get inspired, and let's dive into the mind of Trevor Lubiens. Trevor, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So to start things off, can you share with our listeners a little bit about your background and path to founding Conflux Creative?
Yeah. Thanks for that intro. That felt like way too much. You said master, and I think Jack of all trades, but that's part of my story. I think, man, I had a great, growing up period where we didn't have screens back then. I'm that old. So I was outside a lot. I was building a lot. I was drawing a lot. I was playing music. And all of that led to, coming out of college, I played college basketball. I was dead set on I'm going to be a college basketball coach. I wasn't the most athletic, but I was going to do that. And then got back into music. Like after college, started playing music again, found my passion for that. That ended up, I got a development deal in Nashville. So I moved from Idaho to Nashville. Not a culture shock because I had lived in Seattle before, but a culture shock in the South. The South is a little different, and was there for about 2 years. I thought I was going to move for 6 months, check the scene out, learn some stuff, move back to Idaho, but I just stayed. I got married. My wife lived in Idaho, but then she moved. So we lived there, kind of started our roots there. And then the music scene was changing as well. So this is right around 2007, if you remember, iPhone, social media. So now streaming is happening. And if you want to make music, you got to be on the road. And I just didn't want to do that. So now I had to, what am I going to do now? Do I get back into basketball coaching? But I ended up in a job in marketing somehow. They needed, so it was for a smaller university in Nashville, Tennessee. They're somewhat connected with the university that I went to. There's 9 Nazarene colleges around the United States. And so this one's in Nashville, Trevecca Nazarene University. They needed somebody who could help with music. They needed someone with graphic design ability and somebody who had some leadership skills. And randomly, I had all of those. But then that's where I really cut my teeth in marketing. It was a smaller agency. We grew to about 12 people for the university. And I did everything from marketing, I was the coordinator for a while, did video, graphic design, headed up our video department. And then my last 3 years there, I was the creative director, which I really thrived in that role. Moved back to Idaho. We had our first kid, wanted to be back close to family. There was a larger church that needed help with their worship leader was gone, but they wanted some help with communication. So I fit the bill on that one. Somebody knew my background, and they're like, so I became the director of worship arts and communication at a larger church here. Did that for 4 years. COVID hit. Both of my areas were kind of upended because we did all of our Sunday services online, and then our communication ramped up because of that. So I was working, there was a few 60, 70-hour weeks of trying to create a new infrastructure, figuring out our systems. And I did that. And then I will put a little pause in here. And again, I told you, stop me if I'm rambling. Okay.
You're doing great. You're doing great.
Okay. In 2019, I got asked by a couple of my friends, Patrick and Justin. I don't know if you're familiar with I'll Push You. It's a documentary about their story. So Justin is in a wheelchair. He has a neurological disease that has taken his limbs. All of his muscles don't work there. So he's in a wheelchair, and he wanted to do the Camino de Santiago. It's a 500-mile pilgrimage in northern Spain. And he is the first person to do this, to complete that in a wheelchair. And his friend Patrick pushed him, and they shot a documentary on it. And that led them to doing something that they called the Accessible Camino. So a bunch of people in the accessible world were asking them questions. I want to do this. How do I do it? Where do we stay? What do we pack? And they were like, let's do group trips for people. And they knew me. They knew my background in video. So they asked if I would come and document these trips. They're 6 days. We do the last 120 kilometers. The first year we had 10 people in wheelchairs that we call them captains, and about 35 pushers and pullers. And that was a life-changing experience. And when I came back from that trip, I knew my life was going to change. I didn't know quite how drastically, but I made it through COVID. I helped our church through that period. And then once we kind of felt like it was under control, I made the switch to, I tried to start a nonprofit. And it was centered around this idea that there are people in need and there are people who can help. And so let's create a different type of community center that centers around nonprofit organizations. I worked with, we had a lot of steam at the very beginning, and I learned a ton. There was an architect firm here in Boise that I met with that loved the idea. They donated a lot of time and energy to give us some amazing blueprints. And I did that for 3.5 years until it's a massive project. We were looking at $25 to $30 million and could never just get it off the ground. I had some incredible, again, like a lot of steam and some incredible people that were involved. But so then in March of 2024, I had to do something along the side of trying to create that nonprofit. So I started freelancing using my old skills back in marketing, and then went on another Accessible Camino. They've done 5 of them. And I met Abigail Hansen on our last trip on the Portuguese Way. She had also started freelancing in March. And when we got back from Spain, back to Idaho here, we got coffee together, and we were both like, I'm freelancing. I don't love it. I want to work with someone, and our skills were different enough, but our vision was the same that it just made sense. We tried to go slowly at it, but every single meeting, we were like, this could really work. We could both see the benefit of working with each other. And so, within like a month, we had created Conflux Creative, which a confluence is, two things coming together. So Abigail and I coming together to create this, along with our marketing. Like, we're a marketing agency, and we will come alongside you and we will create something incredible. So that's the non-linear, long version of of starting an agency.
Very nice, very nice. I love the story and love the background. And one thing I really admire about that story is all the zigs and zags, all of the different life experiences that you had to lead you here. And so a lot of our listeners are selling physical products, and there's really three components of physical products. You've got your sales copy, you've got your photography, and you've got your video. And you and Abigail are the 1-2 punch on great video and great photography. And so I would like to dive into that and talk about your why. Can you share your why on what motivates you when you're pursuing creative projects, and maybe what lessons some of our listeners can take away as they're marketing and selling their products?
That's a great question. I think of when you just say creativity, it's such a broad term, and you can go in so many different ways, right? And for me too, being involved in a smaller agency at the very beginning, I had to learn a lot of different things. And so then when you approach a project, you're like, where do we go with this? And it took me a while to figure this out. And I think that I heard somebody else say this. I can't remember where it went, but man, as soon as they said it, it resonated with me. I am creative to tell better stories or to help solve problems. Tell better stories. Sometimes the problem that I'm solving is I need a paycheck. And that, that's the one that I don't want to go after. But when you have this huge, massive field of creativity, to really dive into what problem are we solving, creates a kind of a fence or a barrier in which to be creative in, but at least it narrows the focus, and so we can actually get some things done. And I find that to be extremely helpful throughout the whole process. What story are we telling, or what problem are we solving? And sometimes you tell a story to solve a problem. So they work hand in hand. So that's been helpful for me.
Very nice. Very nice. Yeah. I'm glad that you mentioned solving a problem. When you look at physical products, the best products tend to solve a problem. And if you think of products that, to our listeners, if you think of some things that you've recently ordered, and we're really excited for them to show up, oftentimes those are solving some sort of problem. And so let me ask you this: when, an owner operator of a business is communicating with a video editor, what are some of the things that they can do to help communicate efficiently and effectively, so when you're starting the project, you've got a good roadmap?
Oh man, this is good. It's, especially through video, attention spans are getting shorter. But I still find that if the video is done well, a long video seems short. If it's not done well, a short video seems long. But I think getting to those pain points quickly, and in creative ways, so that your viewer identifies really quickly. Yes, that's me. Or I know somebody that has that problem. I'm waiting. Give me the solution. And so I think that there are really great ways in order to be there. I do think, like you said, if you have a product that does solve a problem, then the issue then becomes, marketing becomes a little bit easier unless the market is saturated. And then you just have top of sight, top of mind. Like, I think of Geico, like, how many different ads can we get out just so that when you need insurance, you know where you're coming?
Yeah.
So I don't know that they get to the problem, and they get to it very creatively sometimes. But anyways, that could be rambling as well.
No, that's helpful. That's really helpful. And one of the things that I take away from your answer was getting to the pain points quickly. And I think as owner operators, communicating what that problem is to the people that we're working with is really important. And so let's turn the corner and talk about starting Conflux Creative. What have been how is that going? And were there any like key moments that solidified your decision that this is what I'm doing?
Yeah, I tried freelance for a while, and I was ready for the grind. When I came back from Spain, I had 2 video projects that I needed to knock out. I had just finished a larger one right before I left, which needed a little bit of follow up. So I was ready to grind it out. But I think that was part of it. Is freelancing, it really exposed my weaknesses, and that would be administrative. I can do the detail work. I was a coordinator for a while. It's not the space that I love to live in. I love ideation. I love meeting with clients, discovering who they are, what they're trying to sell, what they're trying to do in their service. And so I think with Abigail, I said this, we had enough of a difference in our makeup and in our skill set. And some of the things that she brought, it wasn't just amazing photography. She's an incredible photographer. And also, let's just be honest, I don't feel like I'm old, but I'm getting old, and the world is changing so fast, and social media always has new trends. And she is a native, and she gets it, right? And so being able to create, it's not just the design, it's the delivery, and how do you deliver it, and when do you deliver it? So she brought that, but more than that too, she brought in client relationships, like staying in contact with people, and with some of the administrative parts of it. Again, that's not her strength, but it's more of a strength than I have. And she loves finishing projects. It's not that I don't. I just love the new project, and I'm so excited to get to it, and I'm so excited to ideate with people. And so there were so many things that made it obvious, I think, to both of us that this really would work. And in the future, I think we want to grow. I don't think we want to get huge, but administrative is the next hire for us. Somebody that's task oriented, that is built for that. There are some people that just love it. I mean, from my old job, Betsy Harris, man, I miss Betsy. She had it all, and she loved it, and she thrived in that. And so I think we'll get to that point. But yeah, I think it was seeing the larger scope of Conflux Creative and how both of us fit into that, and it made sense.
Absolutely. One thing that I think makes you guys a dream team is you, as you admitted, may not thrive on the administrative stuff, but you do the thing. You do the photography and the video really, really well. I've been a fan of Abigail's work for a while. And you and I had an opportunity to work together on a video project recently, where I was doing a product highlight video and needed the perfect beat. And you sent over something that worked perfectly.
Nice.
And as a retired accountant, it's hard for me to tap into the creative side. And so working with people that are really good at doing the thing, at doing the filmmaking, at doing great video, great music, and great photography is what I think is really going to set you guys up for success. And so let's talk about, so you mentioned the documentary. Let's talk about that. How did the first one go, and what were some of your key takeaways from that process?
I was not involved in their first documentary. Their first trip was 2014, and Patrick, Justin's friend, who was pushing him, he works in the medical industry, and his boss, he said, I need a month off, maybe more. And his boss said, yes, on one condition, I want to see this story. So you have to film it. So they did the documentary. What I'm doing for these group trips is, the first one, I had no idea what I was doing. It's a 6-day journey. After so long, you get the same type of footage. I mean, it really is incredible, the terrain that we're going over. Sometimes you just have to 4 people on a chair and you have to lift over these rocks. Some of these hills are just nonstop, and you've got to get 5 or 6 people, and people are tapping out because they're just getting tired or whatever. And so, but lately what I've done is I've been able to do the 6-day, like, I want people to remember each day, and then there's an overarching vibe to the whole group. And so the videos that I've been putting out lately are like 35 minutes or so, 35 to 40 minutes. And we've done 5. We just got back from our last 2 in June, and Patrick and Justin, they put these on. There's a ton of administrative work that goes on for these, a ton of planning. We stay in hotels because on the trip, on the trail, there's just not hostels or albergues that can house 45 people all of a sudden one night. So there's transportation, there's accessible transportation, blah, blah, blah. There's a ton. So they got back from this last trip. They both have different jobs now than when they started. And they had to make the really tough decision that they're going to do 2 more in 2026. And that's going to be it for the accessible Caminos. And so as I was processing that information, I was processing it with a friend, and this friend knows about these trips, and they were like, these are too good to stop. And they tried to convince me, they tried to convince Patrick and Justin through me to keep these going. I said, yeah, I don't do that part, but I'll tell them. And then at the very end, they just said, well, they've got to shoot a second documentary. People need to know what's been happening with them since the first trip, because this has blown up to so many people. And that just like pierced my soul. And I was like, yeah, we need to do this. So I think I'm not a documentary filmmaker. I know that I can. I've got a ton to learn. I've never done this before. But I think when you start out as a filmmaker, you go and search for the story. And I do think this story just found me. Like, I'm just the one that has to, I have an interesting perspective of it because I've been behind the camera for all of these group trips, because I know Patrick and Justin so well. They're both some of my best friends. And so, yeah, there's a huge learning curve for me. I will say, if there's one thing the accessible Camino has taught me, it's that you cannot do this alone. Like, there's parts of these trails that I remember. There's a guy named James he's had a spinal cord injury. He is super broad shouldered, really strong, and he can do so much in his chair. But we got to this Roman road, and it's 1.5 kilometers of just rock, and he can't do it. Like, I think he would try, but he just needs people. And I remember that visual when I started thinking about doing this documentary and searching, like, what's it going to take? What's the cost of this going to be? What are we going to need to raise? What's the crew look like? All of a sudden that became my Roman road. And immediately I was like, wait, I've got 250 people who love the accessible Camino, who have been on it, who understand it. So I reached out to all of our WhatsApp groups, sent them a video, said, I want to do this, but I can't do it alone. And within 10 minutes, one of the girl, her name's Ariane. She was on the French Way in 2022 with us. She's like, so I produce documentaries. Do you need help? I was like, yes, of course we need help. So we've had incredible meetings with her. And we've got connections worldwide now because of this. People are from Australia and New Zealand and France and all over the United States and Vancouver. So I'm not doing this alone. I'm just the director. I'm going to take all this information and all this help and try to create something incredible that does the story justice, you know? So
That's awesome. That's
I know.
awesome. That's a really cool project that you're working on. And I think that'll be a really, really neat experience. And so,
Yeah.
very cool. Very cool. To our listeners, there are some DIYers. I think as people are getting businesses off the ground, they're bootstrapping and they're doing their own videography. And with you being a professional, what would be some pro tips for those DIYers to keep in mind?
First of all, I would say this doesn't help me because I would love your business, but there's never been a better time to be a videographer. iPhones, smartphones have changed the camera game, and they are light, they are portable, they're always with you, and the cameras just keep getting better. So one thing that I would say though is good audio makes bad video really good.
Right.
Bad audio makes good video look bad, look horrible. It's really interesting. I think a lot of people look on the visual side of it, but I think this is just my take. Our world, and especially a lot of the people that we're marketing to, have grown up seeing iPhone video, so they're used to that visual, they're used to that style, and so I think it has more to do with the storytelling, but then especially the audio part of it. Like if you're just doing an interview with somebody and the audio is not great, I think it's going to lose interest. I think people are going to lose interest pretty quick. So that's one pro tip, I would say.
Yeah, I love it. And that's a question that we've gotten from our audience members is, do I need to buy a video camera or a DSLR camera? And I think, it's helpful to hear from a pro that the iPhone in a lot of instances can be sufficient. Now, what would be some differences between, a DIY project versus going with a professional? What are some things that, if you were to engage an agency like Conflux Creative, that you could expect?
Yeah, you could expect, I have 3Ds for my process: discovery, design, delivery. You can expect a lot of time in the discovery phase. So we're going to ask a lot of questions. It's not like I want to be a part of your team, but I want to be a part of your team. Like I want to know, I want to own this project. I want to be a team member, and that will help with the overall project. And then I think, DIY stuff, you can get away with it, I think, for a lot of things. However, there is a difference with somebody who knows what they're doing. As far as the editing goes, again, like I said, if it's edited well, if it's done well, 5 minutes seems like 2 minutes. And I think people know how to professionals really do know how to identify with a viewer, to connect with them pretty quickly. And then I think that it's just a little bit more than just putting a camera in front of something and expecting people to be like, yeah, I want that product or that service. Especially when there might be somebody else in the same market that has spent a little bit of time, a little bit of money on video. There's my dog back there.
Good looking dog you got there.
Yeah. And, yeah, so I think that's it. And then really, truly too, I think figuring out what style you need to shoot in. That's been something too. I've been working with some real estate agents, and especially with Idaho. I don't know if you're familiar, but everybody wants to move to Boise right now. And so there's some real estate agents that got in early, which was great, but now there's a ton of people that want to be in this market. And so I'll just even say with one of my friends, Becca, is an amazing real estate agent. And we've done some projects with her where we have, her brand is Becca Sells Boise, and we go out to different parts of the Treasure Valley, and it feels very authentic, and it's shot with an iPhone on purpose. But then there are some things behind the scenes of knowing what to take out, understanding the timing of things, understanding the right music bed, things like that, that I think just resonate and will hold people's attention a little bit more and get people to share it.
Yeah, absolutely. You've mentioned a couple of times people's attention spans are shrinking, and I have noticed that as well. And so, what are some things that you can do on the video side that help cater to the audience that has the attention span of a gnat?
Oh man, there's like the full counter approach to that, which would be, instead of trying to keep pace with everything else that everybody sees, maybe it actually is slowing down. Maybe it is choosing a music bed that creates some space, and maybe it is telling a better story, or maybe it's telling a story in sections and chunks where you leave on a cliffhanger, where you do get to that pain point, but then you stop it and you make people want more. I think then, as far as attention spans go, yeah, that's a tough one, because it also depends, I think, on what medium. Like if you're on something like TikTok or Instagram, where it's just a constant, I remember we went to a couple of bigger marketing seminars, and they were like, how do you stop the scroll? Like they had a keynote speaker that was literally like, how do you stop the scroll? And I don't know if, some people can, but like what they're stopping the scroll with versus what they're wanting people to do after they've seen a video are very different. And so you might have to just think outlandish, like which I think might be one of the reasons why some of these insurance agencies, or these, you've got like, I think a Little Caesars, they have like the most outlandish, weird, but sometimes memorable videos. So it could be go crazier, or it could be cut back and go slower, tell a better story, get people to slow down, be countercultural a little bit. Those are a couple of ideas.
Very nice. I like it. Final question before the fire round.
Okay.
Talk a little bit more about Conflux Creative, and what type of clients are you working with right now?
Oh yeah. Our clientele, it's varied, and we love it like that. I think this is kind of the nice thing about having a smaller agency, is you get to say, you have to grind, I think, a little bit during slow times, but then also you get to say yes to some really cool projects. So yeah, photo, video. My area of expertise is in video. Abigail's is photo. We work well together though. She helps with coloring and lighting, all that stuff. And then taking those and taking that content and then making that available on different social media platforms where people are marketing. There's a skill to that. Like, how do we shorten this? How do these work together? So how does our YouTube video reach people on Instagram? How does Instagram push to YouTube? How do they ultimately lead to somebody moving on that buyer's journey to decision, So video, photo, branding, we can do full branding for people because we do graphic design as well. So campaigns as well. We've been working on like pitch decks and taking product photography like that. And I think we are really trying to narrow our focus a little bit. So there are other things that we could do, because she's a jack of all trades as well. But I think that's where we're trying to narrow our focus is really great video, which we'll do brand stories, which would be a little bit longer, or 60-second or 30-second ads that we can turn into social media reels or content like that. Photos, brand photos, lifestyle photos, and product photos. So any type of photography, and then branding and campaigns. I think I would just stick with it there.
Awesome. Very nice. And to our listeners, video was king in 2024 in terms of increasing conversion rates and getting more buyers to your listings. And for our longtime listeners, Ken and I very infrequently endorse a software or an agency. However, as Trevor, I've gotten to know you and Abigail and seen some of your work behind the scenes. What you guys are doing is really incredible, really, really high quality. And so to our listeners, if you're looking for somebody to do your next video project or your next photography project or both, definitely encourage you to get in touch with Trevor. And Trevor, what would be the best way to get in touch with Conflux Creative?
Go to, somebody already got Conflux Creative. So we had to go conflux-creative.com. So CONFLUX-creative.com. And then you can find us at Conflux Creative on Instagram as well. So those are the two main ways.
Outstanding. And standing into anyone driving, we'll post it in the show notes.
Oh, perfect. And one more thing I would love to say too is hopefully our product and what we deliver is quality, but also we want to be really fun and professional to work with. And so if you get to meet Abigail, she's great. I think I'm okay. So, but we love working with people, with clients. So
awesome.
Thanks for the plug.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So next part of the podcast is the fire round. These are 4 questions that we ask every guest at the end of the podcast. Are you ready?
Yes. Let's go.
All right. What is your favorite book?
Usually whatever I'm reading at the moment, and really whatever my friend Patrick, who pushed Justin, Patrick's a reader and he pushes books on me. So, I do a lot of learning during the day and I like to shut my brain off. So I go to fantasy, and, he's got me reading Pierce Brown, Red Rising, the trilogy. So I just finished Golden Sun. So I'm on the last book.
Outstanding. What are your hobbies?
My hobbies are, I love hiking. We live in such a great place for outdoor stuff. And so I love hiking with my family. I like golfing for the first 3 holes, then I hate it for the next few. And then I hit one great shot. And so I love golf again, and I'll go out again. And then I love just being with my family. We do a lot of stuff together. My son's super into football right now, so watching and playing, and my daughter's into gymnastics. So we just get around getting them to all their stuff. You get it.
I do. I do get it.
Yeah.
What is one thing you do not miss about working for the man?
I do not miss multiple bosses. Very infrequently did I have a job where I only had one person I was listening to, and typically there was cross-contamination with vision and mission, so just a kind of a lack of clarity. And so it's more pressure on us, but I love being able to be in charge of clarity and having a singular vision.
Outstanding. And final question, what do you think sets apart successful entrepreneurs from those who give up, fail, or never get started?
Oh man, I'd probably go back to that clarity piece. Clarity on who you are, what you do, why you do it. Man, I mean, Simon Sinek's pretty great, but really getting some clarity on your why. And then I think perseverance, and just some tenacity. I will say I had a friend in Nashville, Micah Kandros, who's an incredible photographer. And when I was getting into the game, I asked him, is there any chance I could work with you? You're incredible. And he was like, you can't keep up with me. And I was like, really? And truth is, I might be able to now, but back then I had no idea what it would take. And he got after it every single morning. He knew what he wanted to do. And he was talented, but he was tenacious. And so I would say tenacity too.
I love it. Well, Trevor, I want to thank you for being a guest on the Firing the Man podcast. And again, to all of our listeners, if you're interested in getting some outstanding video or photography done, please reach out to Trevor and Abigail. And Trevor, looking forward to staying in touch.
Yeah. Thanks so much, David.
Before you go, we wanted to share a new service that Ken and I have been using called Getita that has made us over $10,000 in Amazon reimbursements. The service requires no monthly subscription, and Getita collects a small percentage of the money they recover for you. It takes less than 5 minutes to set up and works on all Amazon marketplaces. Go to Getita.com, Getida.com, and enter promo code FTM400. That's FTM for Firing the Man 400 to get your first $400 in reimbursements commission free. How much money does Amazon owe you?